storyteller, was the host of HGTV's #1 show, House Hunters, for almost a decade. She played Polly on NBC's Las Vegas for 4 seasons, and she's a double award-winning stand-up comedian. She's appeared in About a Boy, Arrested Development, Anger Management, and Dexter. She's currently starring in a new sitcom called From Here On Out, and she's on the ballot for potential Emmy nomination in the category of Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series. She's also a published author, songwriter, public speaker, political activist, minister, radio host, coach, and teacher. Gosh, what a slacker. She teaches an ongoing workshop for artists of all types called The Playing Field here in LA. We're thrilled to have her back at Tell It with a brand new story never told before in public. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Suzanne Whang.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi! Keep it going for Pablo. Thank you, Pablo. And for Phil, Michelle, Jill, and Zach, who's my favorite storyteller in LA. Zach is my favorite. Okay. I love, by the way, that you guys on a Saturday night in Los Angeles, you've chosen to come here to listen to stories. That warms my heart. I love that. I'm Suzanne Whang, and I'm Asian. Any other Asians in the house? What? Yellow power? Oh, 네, 안녕하세요. 감사합니다. Okay, so here's my story. I'm at a gay bar, and it's Madonna night. No. Wouldn't that have been weird? Okay. When I first moved from New York City to Los Angeles in 1998, I was hosting 2 different television shows and making $40,000 a week. What? I was living the Hollywood dream. Yeah, it was New Attitudes on Lifetime and Bloopers with Dick Clark on NBC. Okay, cut to the fall of 2006. I felt a small lump in my left breast. When the doctor called to tell me the biopsy came back positive for breast cancer, I said, wow. This is going to be great material for my stand-up comedy act someday. And she said, what? And I said, tragedy plus time equals comedy. This is going to kill. And then I said, wait a minute. How is this even possible? My boobs are so small. Are you sure? Over the next 6 years, I had breast cancer 3 times because, like most Asians, I'm an overachiever. Yay! The third time I got it, it metastasized to stage 4.
Wow.
Fuck. I became convinced that God was a cunt, or at the very least, out to lunch. In case you don't know, stage 4 is the worst. There is no stage 5. Stage 5 is, oh, you're dead. So with a combination of Western, Eastern, holistic, illegal, and revolutionary treatments, I started to get better. I traveled the world and went $500,000 into debt from cancer bills not covered by insurance, but I am now completely cancer. And I'm not just a survivor, I'm a thriver. Survivor to me sounds like I'm barely hanging on by a thread, right? But I've made cancer my bitch and fisted it in the ass, so I'm a thriver. Elizabeth, is your daughter enjoying my story? Part of my journey included getting a grapefruit-sized tumor removed from my left breast. It was so big that it looked like a third tit. I looked like that woman in Total Recall. The surgery went well, but the incision site got infected and opened up, leaving a giant crater where half of my left tit used to be. The healing process was agonizing. But when it was about 50% healed, I remembered something I had seen on Oprah about extracellular matrix powder, which is made out of pig bladders that regrew human tissue and skin. Well, I got me some ECM powder, I used it in my left tit crater, and it worked. What? My left breast oinks now, but so what? So grew back. I'm gonna write a sitcom called 1.5 Tits. Smell Emmy. Or I could write a screenplay called My Left Tit, and Daniel Day-Lewis could play the story. Oh, you guys understand that? I love this audience. Some people are like, what? And I get it. I chose not to get reconstructive plastic surgery to fix my left breast because I decided it looked beautiful just the way it was, all asymmetrical and scarred and weird with some magically regrown tissue and skin. Now that I've reclaimed my health, it feels like I'm in the bonus round of my life, so I know what it means to seize the day. I grab life by the balls now and live each day to the fullest. This is the part of the story that I've never told in public before. In February, I found out that my friend Dan Warner had been commissioned by an art gallery in Italy to do a fine art nude photography exhibit entitled Women Who Have Survived Breast Cancer, and he was looking for subjects to shoot. What? Okay, talk about cognitive dissonance. Before I got breast cancer, if anyone had approached me to do a nude photo shoot, my answer would have been never in a million years. Sign me up for never o'clock. But now that my body is like a living piece of art with every strange scar and texture telling a piece of my story, should I consider it? So I met with Dan and I asked him tons of questions. And then I went to his website to see his work, and it truly blew my mind. It was like Ansel Adams meets Helmut Newton. And then he explained to me the difference, which I don't know how many of you know this, between a glamour nude photo and a fine art nude photo. Glamour nudes, you know? Glamour nudes, of course you know, I love you, Michelle. Glamour nudes are what you see in Playboy and Penthouse. The photos are usually in color and you see everything. Like, look, Bambi's playing tennis, right? Here's Tiffany cooking dinner. It's all about the pussy, often with the lips spread apart. Fine art nudes are what you'd see framed in an art gallery, usually in black and white, and taken by Richard Avedon or Herb Ritts. The poses often obscure the vagina, which was a relief to me. Now, Dan said that I would have final say on what photos were chosen and that they would be displayed at the Palazzo Moncada Art Gallery in Sicily, and that the proceeds from the exhibit would go to a breast cancer foundation called Progetto Luna. So I said, yes. What? Seize the day. I felt confident that Dan would handle my first ever nude photo shoot with love and respect. This wasn't pornographic, it was political to me. I felt like it was important to be willing to let my imperfect body be photographed and to be proud of it. But as soon as I said yes, I felt like I was gonna puke, like I feel right now. I thought that I liked my body until I agreed to be photographed nude, and then I started noticing and hating every little, I'm like, what's this? Oh no. I decided I should exercise 4 hours a day, every day, leading up to the shoot. Of course, I didn't do that. After multiple fear-based postponements on my part, we finally set a shoot date. The night before the shoot, I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to sleep or that I'd have nightmares. But instead, while I slept, my subconscious mind came up with some fun ideas for the shoot, and when I woke up, I quickly jotted them down. Once I got to Dan's studio, I was petrified. I made sure that I was surrounded by support. My two best female friends, Vanessa and Kelly, who's here, were there. My friends Jenna and Casey did my makeup and hair. I brought a bunch of my favorite music so that I could sing and dance to everything from Stevie Wonder to Frank Sinatra. Anything to distract me from the fact that I'm going to be naked. Vanessa and Kelly knew their job was not only to support me emotionally, but also to make sure I didn't run out the door. Dan showed me around his two-story studio, starting at the bottom of the staircase on the first floor. It was just a carpeted staircase with a hardwood floor and a railing, and it looked like an ugly place to shoot. So when he said, you could pose here, it all became too real to me. I said, sure, here's my pose, and I stood facing, I went like this. He laughed laughed and everyone laughed, and that helped relieve some of the tension I was feeling. As we climbed the stairs to check out his private roof deck, I told him about one of the ideas that came to me in my dream state. I wanted to show a progression of my journey with breast cancer, sort of like with multiple vertical panels, so that I would start out squatting on the ground like a tightly closed bud, and then proceed to bloom and grow like a flower or a tree. And then I told him about my favorite sculpture by Bernini, which is a marble sculpture of Apollo and Daphne. It's at the Villa Borghese in Rome, and it's the most beautiful sculpture I've ever seen. The first time I saw it 30 years ago, I wept. Daphne is trying to escape from Apollo, so she's turning into a tree to establish her freedom, and her individual fingers are turning into branches. So I thought it would be amazing to have my final pose of this series match Daphne's pose in the sculpture to sort of symbolize my own metamorphosis. Well, Dan's face lit up, and he told me that he just happens to have a huge ceramic pot on his private roof deck, and it's filled with dirt, but there's no plant in it, so I could squat inside of it and blossom into a tree from inside the pot. What? And he just happened to have some branches with leaves that I could hold to look like my fingers. Wow. So I got undressed, but I covered myself with a long flowy jacket that I brought so that I could gradually come out of my shell. You know what I mean? Like take pictures like this, and then as I felt more comfortable, like, right? It was surreal. And by the time my jacket came completely off, I left my body because I was so nervous. But after a while, listening to Stevie Wonder and starting to dance, my soul decided to step into the experience. Here is how the ceramic pot series came out. Oh. Wow. The next idea I had was to bring a prop. I have a pair of fuzzy yellow balls at my house that I originally intended to hang from the rearview mirror of my bright yellow car until I found out that it's illegal, did you know this, to dangle something from your rearview mirror like fuzzy dice because it's a visual obstacle. So they've been hanging on my living room wall for years. I thought it would be funny for me to dangle them in front of my vagina, since I've always been told that I have big balls. Well, Dan loved the idea, and he suggested we shoot that on the top of the building, the rooftop, and here is that photo. I love how I was like, can you keep the balls yellow? And he's like, Then we played around with different fabrics and props, and before I knew it, 3 hours had flown by. I realized that I had become quite comfortable with no clothes on, and it had temporarily become my new normal. And then I wondered, if women walked around topless everywhere all the time, would men stop obsessing about seeing boobs so much? Would taking the taboo... We haven't tested it, have we? Would taking the taboo off of it change the dynamic? Because I always say to parents, whatever you repress the most in your children, that's what they will act out the most as soon as they leave home. I also think it's hilarious that if you blur out or cover the nipples, then the photo isn't obscene anymore. So it's not the breasts that are obscene, it's those pesky nipples. Just like in the word fuck, when they put an asterisk where the U is supposed to be, as if it's just those pesky vowels in the middle that are vulgar, but the consonants are fine. I say free the nipples and the vowels. Anyway, I thought we were done shooting for the day, and then Dan remembered that we hadn't taken any photos at the bottom of the staircase. He assured me that the lighting was amazing there, but I was still skeptical. Then he suggested that I do the pose that I had joked about when I first arrived, hiding in the corner. So I did, and it turned out to be our favorite shot of the day. Aww. up after if you want to come look at these photos more closely, but you can see the bump in my spine from my back surgery and the big scar on my left ass cheek from the hip replacement surgery I had after the cancer had spread to my bones. Now, I rarely see this scar because it's always behind me, and in this photo, instead of looking like a deformity, to me it now looks like a punctuation mark for that time of my life. I have a titanium hip, I'm a bionic gook, and I've been through hell, but I'm back and better than ever. And somehow, it looks like I'm standing in front of a building in ancient Greece. There's something mysterious to me and magical about this photo. You guys are the best audience. It's like you decided you were going to love the whole show before it even started. So Dan brought these 3 images to Sicily in April for the gallery exhibit. I really wanted to go, but I'm still $250,000 in debt from cancer bills not covered by insurance, so I couldn't afford the trip. Instead, I wrote up a 2-page blurb about my journey with cancer and asked that it be posted on the wall of the gallery next to my photos. Well, Dan told me that the museum curator in Sicily translated that blurb into Italian, and she read it out loud to the guests who attended the opening. Dan said there wasn't a dry eye in the house, and he said that when everyone saw the photo with the yellow balls, they cheered. Here's the epilogue to my story. Before I got cancer, I spent most of my time taking care of everyone else, being everyone else's rescuer and fixer and healer until I would collapse. Stage 4 cancer, not all the other times, I'm so stubborn it was stage 4, finally forced me to slow down and stay still and ask for help. In Asian culture, it's considered disgusting to air your dirty laundry in public or admit that you have any problems. But I realized that we really are only as sick as our secrets. So I finally threw my pride and ego out the window, and I let myself receive the love and support of my family and friends, some of whom are here tonight. As soon as I came out of the cancer closet, after keeping it a secret for 5 years, my heart cracked open as I allowed myself to be loved back to life. It was unbearable at first, but crucial to my healing. Even fans that I had never met began showering me with emotional and financial support from all over the world. My house, which was before this private sanctuary where I didn't want anyone to come over, it became Grand Central love station. And I found out that everyone who I thought was my friend really was. Let me tell you, there's a time in my life where the people around me weren't really my friends. But I got to see that the people around me now really are. People came over and cooked me food, scrubbed my floors, walked my dog, sang me songs, told me jokes, brought over funny movies, and told me how much they love me. In fact, after my back surgery, my friend Priscilla carried me into my bathroom and very gently shaved my legs. It was one of the most beautiful, intimate, loving experiences of my life. And speaking of extraordinary love, I have been friends with a remarkable man named Jay Nickerson for the past 20 years, and I've been secretly in love with him since the moment we met. As it turns out, he's been secretly in love with me the entire time too, and in 2012 he chose to tell me. We got married on October 19th in the church building on the Upper West Side of New York City where we first met, doing a play together in 1993. Jay thinks my body is beautiful, exactly the way it is. I'm 51 years old, I'm the happiest I've ever been, and I'm glad I said yes to the photo shoot. Romance is alive and well, miracles happen every day, and God is back from lunch.
Yay!